always praying for the moment that seems to have arrived to eventuate. And we want to talk with the author, among other books, of The Islamic Way of War, An Ancient Doctrine Marches On, Dr. Harold Rode. Welcome back to Securing America, my friend. Good to have you with us.
Nice to be here, Frank, and thanks. It's a beautiful introduction. I hope I live up to it.
You will more than do so. So, Harold, I want you just to level set a little bit with us. There are people here in the United States who can't quite fathom why one would be so dead set against having this Iranian regime gain access to nuclear weapons. They point out that Israel has them, Pakistan has them, India has them, North Korea has them, lots of other countries. What is it about the regime in Tehran at the moment that makes them such a pariah and such a problem should they get nuclear weapons?
Well, from the beginning of the regime, they have yelled, "Death to America, death to Israel." America, the big Satan, Israel, the little Satan. We look at these words as, okay, you don't really mean it. They're just chants. No, this is basic to them. These are, the people ruling Iran are fanatic Shiite. I don't want to use the word fundamentalist. We'll leave for a moment why. And they believe in what they're saying. This is a war. First, from their point of view, of the Muslim world versus the non-Muslim world. Who is the strongest, or which is the strongest power, whether we like it or not? It's called the United States of America, the leader of the anti-Muslim world from their perspective. And its little brother, Israel. And so these must be eliminated. It's much easier, or at least they hope, to eliminate Israel. And if you read the people who are in power in Iran, their theology, if you read their works, and I must tell you, I did that way back when the revolution was happening, and it's like, the American approach is they can't really mean it. Well, they do. They didn't lie.
Yeah. I think it's important, Harold, to just interject that the Ayatollah Khamenei, the current supreme leader of Iran, at least for the moment, has actually said death to America is not a slogan. It is a policy.
Yes.
We should take them at their word, should we not? So anyway, here's this nasty regime. Talk a bit about how the people of Iran feel about it and their current attitude, especially as it is perhaps mortally weakened by Israel's attacks.
Well, from senior American officials who were in the Trump round one administration, I remember them saying in awe, what Israel knows about what's inside Iran, what's going on, at the highest levels, is unbelievable, much better than the knowledge that America had. And the Israelis are sharing pretty much of everything, as far as I can understand, on this with the United States. Now, why am I saying this? Yesterday, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu gave an hour-long presentation. It was in Hebrew, in which he said that from what they know, and they know, again, better than we do, about 80% of the people of Iran want to be liberated. They hate this regime. Some of these people are devout Muslims. They're religious, very what we would call, they pray all the time. But they hate the regime. Why? Because they may call themselves Muslim and whatever. What they really are tyrants. And as Bernard Lewis, who was the greatest scholar of the Middle East in the late 20th century and the first decade of our century, 21st, said their attitude was, I'm right, you're wrong, go to hell. Meaning that the regime says what it does. And the people in power, in Shiism, the only rightful rulers or the only rightful ruler is what they're called their Messiah, Mahdi, the awaited Imam, who disappeared in 873, our calendar, but he's there. And until then, all political rule is, yeah, exactly. He's in there, and that's how supposedly the grand ayatollahs communicate with him, dropping notes in the well. Now, here's the thing. Why is this important? Most of the Shiite leaders, the grand ayatollahs, say until he comes, all political rule is illegitimate. And so we, the mullahs, should not be ruling. The people who are running Iran right now say we can make the Mahdi come, the Messiah, by provoking a conflagration. And then the guy who led the Iranian Revolution back in 78, 79, he opposed them. Why did he oppose them? Because you could say, from our point of view, Khomeini, the founder, was an extremist, like unbelievable. That's true, but he was afraid that the group who wanted to provoke a conflagration would destroy Iran. And that was the basis of the revolution. And those are the people running Iran right now.
Right. These are known as Twelvers because they think they're going to bring back the 12th Imam by precipitating the apocalypse. And Harold, you've made it clear that large percentages of the Iranian people don't have any use for this regime. On the other side of a very short break, I want to talk with you about how likely it is, in your estimation, that if given the chance now to liberate themselves, they will, in fact, seize that chance, and what might come if they do, and how we can help them achieve all of that. We'll be right back with more with Dr. Harold Rode, longtime duty expert on all of this for the United States Department of Defense. Stay tuned. back, and so is Dr. Harold Rode. Praise the Lord. We're going to be getting into, I think, the most important national security policy issue of the day with Harold. He's had a lifetime of experience working on these matters at the highest levels of the Defense Department for many years, now retired, but he is remaining very actively engaged in the effort to help bring an end to the threat. Yes, of course, Israel, but also we here in the United States, and for that matter, the free world more generally, face from these mullahs with their 12-er ideology and agenda. Harold, I know you've recently written about the prospects that the people of Iran, who overwhelmingly hate this regime, and with good reason, are in need of liberation. That moment may be at hand. Talk about that prospect and what you think the people of Iran will do in response to it.
Two things. Number one, the article that you mentioned is on something called jns.org. And yes, and what I argued, Ben, it's like 2 months ago or something I wrote, is two things. Number one, we need to take, first of all, out the nuclear program. I didn't define who we is. It doesn't matter. And number two, we have to take out the regime. Why take out the regime? Because if we just took out the nuclear program, the regime would just wait, and Iranians know how to wait. They're very patient, and they would rebuild the whole thing, and we'd have to go and do the whole thing over again. It's sort of like we did the Kuwait War, and we didn't finish the thing by taking out Saddam, so we had to come back later and do it. We don't need to. Do it now. Get it done. Now, the third part of the thing is what America was our government was so concerned about is that doing nation building. And I argued strenuously, no nation building is needed. Don't get involved. We failed in Iraq, and we failed in Afghanistan. Don't do it. They know their culture. They know their people. Let the Iranian people do it. They're highly educated. They want nothing more to be involved with the rest of the world. They don't work well together with each other. But here is their chance. Now, what I would argue is let them figure it out. Our job is only to make sure that whatever happens, that they join the international community, whatever that means, but in the respected way that they were preceding the Islamic Revolution, 1978-79. And they want it. They want it desperately. And they're enormously capable of doing this. Let them alone. That's it.
So, Harold, you have no doubt that being provided with the opportunity by the Israelis and possibly by us, they will seize it. And I think in that connection, one of the really critical things that was mentioned in a very important webinar that we conducted jointly with our friends at Israel 365 Action, Pesach Waliki, a rabbi there, I think you know, in Israel. Namely, as David Wormser pointed out, if we continue to talk about negotiating with the regime or pursuing some kind of nuclear deal with them, particularly, that we will find the people of Iran refusing to take the very profound risks associated with going into the streets and trying to remove the regime. Donald Trump has now said, as I mentioned in my commentary, that our policy is now unconditional surrender by Iran. And that would, I hope, mean no more negotiations except for the purposes of accepting their unconditional surrender. Do you see the circumstances now emerging, Harold, that would prompt the Iranian people to take the risks to try to fashion a new government, a new Iran, and to remove once and for all these mullahs?
Look, the problem is this: how they in the Middle East and also in Iran understand negotiations. You and I understand that I hate you, God forbid, and you hate me, God forbid, and we need to work together. So we as Americans sit down. You try to give me what I want. I try to give you what you want. We come up to a thing. We shake hands. We smile. We may even put our arms around each other. In the Middle East, that's not when you negotiate. That is called what you and I just did weakness. And it's a blot on both of our honors. No. Negotiations is the winner dictates the terms to the loser of how things are supposed to go, which means that the regime has got to go and the nuclear program has got to go, and then the Iranian people. They're looking right now. They got their finger up in the air where the wind is. This is what I lived through in 1978. Never forget it. And that's throughout Iranian history. They go, as in Persian, there's a phrase, bot paras, which means they're idol worshippers. Bot means Buddha, meaning they need somebody to bow down to, need someone to lead them. They are not innately democratic, but they know how to make their system work, and it needs a leader, a glue to keep them together. That is not going to be easy, but life is not easy, and they will have to work this out. Our job is get these people, the fanatics, out of power, and we're not opposed to Islam, what Americans might call moderate Islam. I don't care how many times you want to worship a day or pray to your God. I don't care if you want to fast all year, every day. It's not my business. But when it comes to politics and when it's in my face, and here we have the greatest country, the 800-pound gorilla, as Ron Dermer would say, the United States of America, and the 250-pound gorilla, which is Israel, when they want to destroy us, both of us, and they want to destroy Europe, and Europe is basically just bending over and allowing them to give it to them. And that's how the Iranians understand the image that I just gave. We must understand. You don't ask them, you tell them what you're going to do. We're doing this, and they're waiting to see, are we serious? So far, so good.
Yeah. And it's critical that it be to a decisive victory, Harold.
100%.
And if so, let me ask you, Harold, what you think comes next if the people of Iran do, in fact, take advantage of this window to achieve their liberation?
Well, they got a big problem, the Iranian people, and that is that they work trying to get Iranians to work together is like trying to herd cats. You can't do it. That is something that they are going to have to work among themselves. And how they want to deal with the future. One thing is guaranteed. They are desperate for a relationship with the United States, and they're desperate for a relationship with Israel. Europe, they don't get it because Europe is, the image that I just used is how they see Europe. If this can be done, we can't determine that. But what I am sure of is they want to get along with us.
Which means that we can help encourage,
yes,
and perhaps facilitate the transition to a new order. Just very quickly, Harold, do you see the Crown Prince, the Shah's son, playing some sort of role in that transitional period?
Yes, absolutely. And here's why. I'm not pro or anti him. That's for the Iranian people to decide how they want to be ruled. And it was odd. Someone asked me this morning that we need a song. We need something they can all come through. And it immediately popped in my mind. It is what the Iranians would call their true national anthem. It wasn't the anthem under the Shah. It's not the anthem now. What it talks about is the greatness of Iran, the land, the culture, the beauty, the literature. And it unites everybody.
These are the things that will cause them to come together, please God. Harold Rode, they will have the benefit of your counsel, I hope, as well. And we certainly appreciate it. Please come back to us with updates very soon, if you would. We appreciate your service. Sir. Keep it up. We'll be right back, folks. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back, and a very, very personal as well as heartfelt welcome to our next guest. Her name is Dr. Karen Sigeman. She is one of our partners in so many enterprises, including notably our Victory Coalition, one of the projects we sponsor at the Institute for the American Future, of which she is also a senior fellow, for which we are grateful beyond words. In addition to all of that, she has her own gig. She is the president of a wonderful organization based in Los Angeles called the American Freedom Alliance. And her programs there, her content in the various podcasts and other things that she's doing with and through the AFA, as it's known, is, unsurpassed, I think. And I strongly commend it to all of you at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. But I wanted specifically to have somebody whose expertise is about freedom, to talk about the choice that we've been discussing with Dr. Harold Rode and in my commentary today. The choice before the people of Iran, but also the United States and Israel and perhaps others who I believe very strongly need to further help them achieve freedom. And we're going to talk with Karen about why. Dr. Sigeman, welcome back. It's so good to have you as always.
Frank, great to be with you again.
Thank you. So, as I say, you make a business of helping the rest of us understand freedom, including here in the United States, by the way, where we more or less take it for granted. But why does it matter whether we have in Iran going forward freedom for its people, as opposed to the sort of tyranny they've suffered under for 46 years?
Well, let me just say to start, absolutely, freedom is a characteristic, a value, a way of life and of living that humans should all have the freedom to live under. Absolutely, to be the best that we can be, to be the agents of our own lives, our own success. It's the way to prosperity, it's the way to happiness, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, inalienable rights, as we have guaranteed under our Constitution, again, not given to us by our government, but guaranteed as they have been endowed to us by our Creator. So we believe this, that it's not just Americans that are given this, but it's our Constitution that protects it, because we believe these are a good thing. It's not our national policy. It's an inalienable right, but it's not our policy, generally speaking, to go around the world to deliver this to others. That's not how we act. It's not how we got into World War II. We didn't look at Hitler's Germany and say, there's a very bad thing going on here. We need to intervene in order to deliver the German people from this tyrant, this oppressive regime. We didn't go into the Soviet Union with the same kind of thing. We're not going into China. As much as we recognize that this is an important right for people to have, and free nations generally don't act in a way that's singularly violent as tyrannical regimes do, so there's a benefit there. But it's not generally how we conduct our foreign policy. In this case, we have been very hands-off in dealing with Tehran and much of the Middle East. But in a sense, by supporting Israel, we are supporting freedom in that quarter, and by supporting Israel in their efforts right now, existential efforts to preserve their own national security, their own freedom, their own existence, we are also, as a byproduct, extending that same freedom, hopefully, to the good people of Iran. It's not our original goal, but it's certainly a most wonderful secondary, ancillary aspect, another outcome of this, which is...
But I want to ask you, if it's not a primary goal...
Yes.
Is the alternative of having this odious regime which brutally represses its people, but mortally threatens us as well as Israel, persist? Is that an option at this point? Can we safely do that? Is the evident determination of President Trump, at least of late, to have it be otherwise, not essential for this country going forward?
Well, at this point where we are now, knowing that Iran's entire being is the destruction of Israel, and by the way, the United States of America, death to Israel, death to America, that these aren't idle words, these are policy platforms, and the oppression of the people is part and parcel of this. To liberate Iran from this tyrannical, murderous regime is not only to keep Israel safe and to free its people, but it's also to keep America safe, and I would add, thereby, Western civilization, because that is what is under attack here. It's the nation of Israel, it's the nation of the United States, but the goal, the ultimate goal, of course, is the complete destruction of Western civilization. And by that I mean the Judeo-Christian world in pursuit of an Islamic world domination. And it sounds kind of crazy, except we all know, you know this, I know this, your viewers know this. This is exactly their goal.
Well, it's more than a sort of abstract aspiration. It is what they have been relentlessly pursuing, this Sharia supremacist regime in Tehran, from the get-go. And that has meant it's not only been pursuing these nuclear capabilities that threaten us all, I mean, truly existentially threaten us all,
yes,
but also terrorism for the purposes of subverting or otherwise destroying all other nations that do not submit effectively to their program. And by the way, that means fellow Muslim nations as well, who happen not to, be of the Sharia Shiite stripe, but the Sharia Sunni stripe. And the thing is, that cumulative record has made it abundantly clear that the persisting of this regime, the further advance towards its goals, the enhancement of its capabilities to achieve them, is simply incompatible with our vital interests, is it not? And therefore, while we cannot be sure as to what exactly will happen, as I was just talking about with Dr. Rode, if the people of Iran do throw out the bums, as they say, what precisely will be the form of their governments? What precisely will be their policies? The chance that they might be able, at long last, to experience and enjoy freedom and once again be part of, Western civilization,
right,
as opposed to trying to destroy it, is a chance worth taking, it seems to me. Would you agree?
Well, at long last, again, they did have this. This is not nation building, and it's again not up to us as to with what they will replace the tyranny that they're under. But they've had freedom before. They've had a Western style, very free, open society. They have a vestigial, at the very least, sense of what that can be. It wasn't all that long ago. They have the Crown Prince. Apparently there's conversations happening with him as to what form this next step would take. But let me also say that to not, at this juncture, right now, to not continue to the point where throwing the bums out is what actually happens would be devastating on so many counts, that this must be continued. It must be continued for the good of Israel, for the good of us, for the good of Western civilization, as you remind us, for the good of the Iranian people, who do have a right to their own deciding what their governance will look like. And that they have Reza Pahlavi waiting in the wings is a huge plus.
Yeah, let us pray. Karen, just in a minute, you are a member of the Committee on the Present Danger of China. Overarching all of this, as we've talked about on our road show, is the Chinese Communist Party. It is allied with the Iranians. It too seeks to bring down Western civilization.
Yeah.
If our ally, Israel, crushes their ally, Iran, and helps bring about this kind of sea change, do you think that this will deter China from engaging in the kind of aggression that they clearly have in mind, possibly very violent? Is that not a further reason for taking this action, do you think?
That's such a great question. I am a believer in, it may be cliche, but peace through strength. And when you act in accordance with a sense of determination, and with determination to defeat the enemy, all other potential enemies take note. This is why none of this happened under President Trump before, and why all of this broke out under President Biden. So I completely agree.
Perfect summation. Thank you for joining us. Come back soon, if you would. And God bless you and the great work you do at the American Freedom Alliance. We'll be right back, folks. Stay tuned. We're back, and we have a very special treat for you. We are catching up with our friend Peter McElvena. on location outside of the place he works when he is doing his day job with Lord Malcolm Pearson. That would be the Houses of Parliament. Malcolm is, of course, a member of the House of Lords, a very distinguished member indeed. And Peter is his right-hand man, both in his official duties and in his unofficial capacity as the co-proprietor of a wonderful organization called Hearts of Oak. It's also the name of a podcast they co-sponsor, co-host. Peter is on the road, and we are very privileged to catch up with him to talk a bit about a number of issues of mutual interest and concern. Peter, welcome back. It's so good to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Big Ben in the background, Houses of Parliament, so on location in the middle of Westminster.
Yep. We're especially appreciative that it's a beautiful day in London. It isn't often in my experience, but nice of you to be outside and taking advantage of the scenery. Let me start by asking you about Iran, Peter. We've been talking about it extensively from the Israeli perspective, from the American perspective. Talk a little bit about how it looks, this present campaign against the mullahs of Iran, from the position of those of you in the United Kingdom, perhaps making a distinction between the views of your government and your own, but clarify as you would.
Well, it's interesting because the UK is fairly detached, as I think the whole of Europe is fairly detached. Militarily, we are very weak, and diplomatically, we're also very weak. So there is very little really coming from the UK. I think that what President Trump posted about Macron, saying that Trump had left the G7 because he was going back to do a deal, and Trump said, "I'm nothing of the sort." And I think that kind of shows the disconnect that Europe have with what is happening in the outside world, because Europe has so many problems themselves. So militarily, we won't have any say in what happens. Although Britain, I think, sent a handful of planes, but I think all our military has gone to Ukraine, and therefore we have very little left, and that's the same for Europe. So we are, I think in the UK, we think Iran is a problem, but we can't do anything about it. But Europe is angry that Israel may be the savior for the West. That kind of is the position, because there's no love lost towards Israel in terms of from Europe or from the UK. And all the UK and Europe do is issue statements that we want there to be a peaceful resolution. All parties must come to the table. It's the same old platitudes that we always hear. But there's been actually very little in terms of Starmer, in terms of the British government, actually recommending, suggesting, proposing anything in terms of this. It seems to be President Trump is taking the lead along with Netanyahu and setting the scene and setting the vision for the way forward, which is exciting. And obviously that term regime change fills people with fear. But actually, if you remove the Islamic Republic of Iran, you've got a very strong church in Iran. You've got a revival happening. The future is really exciting for an Iran free of Islamic oppression and rule. So it's very positive going forward. But of course, Europe doesn't see that generally.
Yeah. Europe was expecting to be, in the course of this week, mau-mauing Israel about creating a Palestinian state. And you talk about irrelevance to the situation on the ground. That would presumably be a prime example of it. They decided to postpone, given the focus of attention on Iran, of course. But Peter, we did an important program with our Victory Coalition the past few days with our friends in Israel 365 Action. I think you know Rabbi Pesach Walicki. It was a powerful argument against there being a Palestinian state, but the idea remains an idée fixe for I think the British government, the French, and others as well. Can you explain why that's so?
Well, it's that's quite difficult. I mean, I talked to our interview on Monday was Brian of London, who's based in Tel Aviv. He was giving a lot of background. I was interested to hear his perspective from Israel in terms of Europe and the UK and their response to it. And it was interesting to hear. I thought there would be fatigue on the population because you've had 20 months of this, but it's of course not a 20-month war. It's been a war since 48 for Israel to survive. And he said, no, the public are by and large supportive. They realize, they see the threat of Iran, and they see the threat because they're fighting for their own existence. Where I guess the UK and Europe, they don't see that threat because it doesn't seem to affect them. That's what they think, that's what they hope. And because our intelligence services are severely degraded across Europe, we don't have an understanding of what lies behind this, where Israel, of course, did understand, and they embedded themselves in Iran, ready for that attack, and that was all planned. And Europe are left confused. I don't think there was any conversation with Europe or the UK of what was happening. There was obviously conversations with the US, but Europe were seen as relevant, and therefore there was no conversations. They weren't brought into it. I think there's some frustration in Europe, some FOMO. They're feeling a little bit left out in one regard, but it's because they had nothing to add. They had nothing to give to the conversation, and they were no help to Israel or the geopolitical side across the Middle East. So it's straight back.
What I was specifically thinking about was they don't seem to be interested in being helpful to Israel on this, war in Gaza either. They're interested in helping save Hamas, it would seem, with this Palestinian state idea. Albeit that the claim is that of course it won't be Hamas; it'll be the Palestinian Authority. But as our very important program, and I commend it to all of you at victoryco.org, made clear, there's not a dime's worth of difference between the agenda of the Palestinian Authority, so-called, and that of Hamas. So we're talking about, a Europe that is at best irrelevant and at worst helping to prop up enemies, not just of Israel, by the way, but I believe of Judeo-Christian civilization as well. Peter, we have to take a very short break. When we come back, I want to talk to you a bit further about the presence in the United Kingdom and the political agenda and, inroads that have been made by Sharia supremacists there. We'll be right back with that and much more with Peter McAvenna. Please stay tuned. Peter McAvan is with us once again from outside the Houses of Parliament. You see Big Ben over his shoulder, I believe. A very scenic picture indeed on a beautiful day in London. Peter, the weather forecast politically is not so rosy in Britain, I'm afraid. Could you talk a bit about how immigration, particularly, I guess, from South Asia into the United Kingdom, has, fundamentally transformed your politics? I think Barack Obama coined that phrase. Specifically with the rise of, it appears, quite a cohort of Sharia supremacist Muslims in electoral office across the land. Is that of concern, and what are the implications of it as you see them?
That's a big question, Frank. And yes, it is of concern. And of course, the sunny day means that we have the boats coming from France over to Britain. Those things, the people trafficking, that is doubling every year. So because of the warm weather, the French seem to help the boats into English water, and then we rescue all the people and put them in a free hotel. So that's what's happened under a Conservative and Labour government. This was a question actually in a political programme a few days ago, and the government minister, Labour, socialist government minister, he talked about the people coming over, and he talked about women, children, babies coming over. And it was pointed out that, no, over 80% of them are young men coming over. And he said that was nonsense. But that 84% at least of exactly, Frank, off fighting age. So those people coming in and disappearing in the UK, what does that mean? Where do they come from? What ideologies do they have? What vision for society? And the issue is many of them are coming from Islamic nations. And when they come here, they are able to apply for asylum for their 4 wives, all their children, and then aunts and uncles. So you have a single person coming, but behind that person, you've got 20 others that are coming. So we're being swamped in terms of immigration. And then they are demanding their right to vote. We've seen changes. So up in Bradford is 30% Muslim. London is 12%, but rising very fast. And the whole issue with the grooming gangs, of course, which has come out, the Muslim rape gangs have happened over 50 years. They didn't want to address that because they were afraid of the demographics, afraid of being called Islamophobic, and concerned of the vote. Because the last segment talking about Israel and touching on Gaza, that was a really big vote issue in the last general election. And Labour and Conservative, wherever they're right or left and more left, they are all concerned about the Islamic vote. And it is a block vote like no other. You don't have a Christian block vote, you don't have a Jewish block vote, you don't have an atheist block vote, but you've got an Islamic block vote. And it made Gaza the centre last year, and I think that's what they're all afraid of.
So you've seen, notably, even at 12%, when that 12% vote is a block, London, the most important city in the kingdom, is governed by, and has been now for some time, a Muslim. He may not strut the Sharia supremacist agenda explicitly, but as I understand it, he certainly is willing to accommodate it, and indeed is accommodating it in London. Is that correct, Peter?
So yeah, you've got the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, being Pakistani origin and being a Muslim. He is actively promoting it. Then you've got Keir Starmer, Prime Minister, who's a weak individual and is afraid of losing the Muslim vote. So you've got one actively pushing an Islam agenda under diversity, equity and inclusion. And then on the other side, you've got a Prime Minister who's afraid of saying the wrong thing and therefore is opening the door and doesn't want to stop immigration, isn't concerned of the 70 Sharia courts that we see across the country, isn't concerned of the rise of halal and the huge industry that is, isn't concerned that David Cameron made London the centre of Islamic finance back in 2010, and we had the first Sharia bonds issued outside the Middle East, I think. And that is now huge business, Sharia finance in the UK. All of that means, and you go to, I was in a street in London on last Friday, the footpaths all covered at 12 o'clock on Friday, call to prayer outside the mosque because there are too many people there. So the footpaths are all blocked. on a main street in part of London. And then you go up to the Midlands and you find 35% Islamic. And we are seeing huge demographic changes, which is very negative in terms of integration and Sharia supremacy, because as we touched on all those areas, when Islam comes in, it demands supremacy on legal, on education, on food, on finance, across the board. And the UK government don't know how to handle that, and they're afraid to point it out and to address it.
Peter, you told me off air that the newspapers across the country are reporting at last information about one of the most outrageous examples of that forced submission. Namely the so-called grooming gangs. They're really rape operations, systemic, aimed at, I guess now, not just white women in Britain, but Irish girls as well. Tell us just quickly what's the latest on that, and maybe a quick update on Tommy Robinson and his efforts to call attention to the problem as well.
Well, Tommy has been talking about this for 15 years. Lord Pierce has been talking about this for 10 years. And we've had a huge change this week. So we had when the Labour government got in, there were calls for a full national inquiry into the grooming gangs. We've never had that in the UK, never. They resisted calls and have resisted them for 6 months. But suddenly they did request a report to be written by Louise Casey, who's a baroness in the house behind me, in the House of Lords. And she has written a number of reports on this issue. She understands this issue. And she produced a very hard-hitting report showing the utter failings of our institutions. And as soon as that was published, before it was published, 24 hours before it was published, Keir Starmer said, actually, we're going to have an independent, national, full inquiry into grooming gangs. So this has been huge because the Labour government have resisted it. The Conservative government for 14 years didn't do it. And they've now been forced to address this. And only yesterday, one of the newspapers was saying that we have Telford, we have Rotherham, but Bradford could be times worse than what we have seen. So we could be facing something much bigger than what we knew happened.
Peter, we have to leave it at that for the moment. We will be following it closely with your help. Thank you for joining us from the Parliament grounds. God bless you, and Lord Malcolm Pearson, I know you will keep up the great work, and we look forward to our next visit with you. God bless you. Look forward to talking to the rest of you the next time. Until then, go forth and multiply.
back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Make America Healthy Again isn't just a government slogan. There's a good chance you're one of the many Americans who are out there watching their diet a bit closer these days, exercising a little bit more and drinking more water. While all of that is admirable, the folks over at Energized Health have some additional strategies to help you live a better and a longer life. It, in fact, worked for this woman you're getting ready to meet.
My nails are the strongest they've ever been. My daughter's a phlebotomist. She used to say, oh, your veins, and they did. They stuck way out. They don't stick out now on my arms. So there's just all kinds of, I could go on and on with, from skin blemishes that disappeared to my husband. He's down about 4 notches on his belt.
Energized Health founder John Jubilee joining me now to talk a bit more about that woman's success story and so much more. John, always good to see you.
Great to see you, Terrence.
So look, you sent me over these 5 reasons why you say people aren't reaching their health goals. Share some of those with me.
Well, I tell you what, Terrence, we're gonna share all 5 with people on the 555 challenge, but I'll share one that all of us know is true, but we don't just stop and think about it. You know, Terrence, what diet works? They all work for a minute, right? They all work for a minute, but none of them are sustainable. So diets are something, listen, diet starts with D-I-E, die. So I tell people, I'd rather die than go on another diet. I tried dieting, Terrence, for 10 years, and we all know, you know, most of us have been on 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 diets. We always lose the weight. We gain back more than we lost. And by the way, we're always just losing water. The first 5, 10 pounds we lose on a diet is just water anyway, guys. So we're all just, we're just deceiving ourselves into thinking we did something good. All we did, we could have just went and ate a box of Twinkies and sat in a sauna and lost 5 or 10 pounds, but we wouldn't be more healthy. And so one of the things we need to quit doing, get off of the diet hamster wheel, you know, quit the dieting. Learn how to reset your hypothalamus, reset your metabolism, get healthy at the cellular level so that your body will naturally metabolize its fat, gain its lean muscle, and get its hydration.
And that's really at the heart of what Energized Health does. You have protocols that will help people push the reset button on their body.
Well, if you listen to what this woman just said. So when she said that, you know, her daughter is literally a phlebotomist, and that's somebody that draws blood. And she used to have veins sticking out of her arms and her legs. Well, why did that go away? Well, it's because she had sludge blood, because her blood was dehydrated. So how does it go away? Because she got intracellular hydration into her blood, into her cells, and all the veins went back down under the skin where they're supposed to be. When you don't have sludge blood, when you have the healthy viscosity of intracellular hydration, you're going to have healthy veins, you're going to have healthy blood flow. And kind of interesting, you know, ladies, pay attention, her hair and her nails better than they've ever been. Well, why? Because when you're getting healthy at the cellular level, even your hair and your fingernails get healthy, because when you're healthy at the cellular level, it makes everything healthy.
And when you talk about health at the cellular level and intracellular hydration, drinking water isn't enough. You have to get even deeper than that.
Well, you do, Terrence. Look, everyone's drinking more water. Everybody's been drinking more water for 20 years. How's that working for us, guys? We're still all dehydrated until we implement, you know, we have the only patent pending science in the world of intracellular hydration, how to get it inside the cell. When we drink water, that gets it in the body. It does not get it inside the cell. So the key is to do the right science, the right sequence, you know, and it's 3 things and 3 things to get it in the cells. And listen, come hang out with Chelsea and I for 5 days, you know, starting today. You can sign up today, guys. Spend 5 days. That's like a price of a cup of coffee for $5. Okay. And we will share with you, listen, here are the right steps to take, and you'll lose 5 pounds of fat.
And you can find out more information there at my555challenge.com. Appreciate you, my friend.
Hey, thank you, Terrence.
Well, here we go. Kicking off another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here to start your day, all right? And what a day it's going to be. We're going to bring you truth. Evaluate as close as we can all the big stories, and there are big ones today. Let's get right to it in the foxhole of freedom. Three big things to know. Number one, grocery giant Kroger set to close dozens of its stores over the next year and a half. A huge surprise to many as the company has been turning big profits. Number two, the Supreme Court has turned in a big win for President Trump, granting the request to resume and continue deporting illegals to third countries and not the ones they came from. We'll talk about that in number three. The war is over. The 12-day war has ended. And then it hasn't. We were in the first few hours of a ceasefire that President Trump thought would become a permanent peace in the Middle East after about 24 hours. But unfortunately, in the last little while, Iran violated that ceasefire. Israel planning to return full force with a vicious counterattack on Iran. Their policy is to return fire in extreme, well, in the extreme. Prior to this happening, and this is all just happening in the last few minutes, President J.D. Vance had praised Donald Trump and the effort for a peace agreement in the Middle East. Here he is.
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing for Israel. Think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks, through their now failed effort to build a nuclear weapon, is that they're just not very good at war. And I think the president really hit the reset button and said, look, let's actually produce long-term peace for the region. That's always been his goal. I actually think when we look back, we will say the 12-day war was an important reset moment for the entire region.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the reset is not complete today. Maybe it's the 13-day war. The Israeli Defense Forces say it intercepted more than 15 UAVs launched from Iran overnight. And after agreeing to Trump's proposal, they say, well, they're going to have a strong response. Here's the latest. Israel Defense Minister Israel Katz said he ordered the military to respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire agreement with high-intensity strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran. In light of Iran's blatant violation of the ceasefire declared by the President of the United States and the launching of missiles toward Israel, in accordance with the Israeli government's policy to respond forcefully to any violation, I've instructed the IDF, in coordination with the Prime Minister, to continue the intense operation striking regime targets and terror infrastructure in Tehran, he said. The announcement of peace from the president came first on his Truth Social platform last night. It read this way. Donald Trump saying that the war was over. Thank you to everybody. I'm going to get it here for you. Very important that you hear what he had to say. The ceasefire is now in effect, he said 5 hours ago. Apparently that is not true. A lot of posts on his Truth Social. And I'm backing up because we got a lot to deal with here. It is just a mess is what we've got. Here's what he wrote. Congratulations to everyone. It's been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours. That ceasefire violated by Iran. Now, no telling how long they'll stay in this and no telling who launched the missiles. The command and control in the state of Iran is suspect, to say the least. Suspect. I think it's safe to say no World War III, at least not yet. And I don't think there'll be a protracted quagmire for the United States in the Middle East as so many people were predicting. No nation building, just American power. And of course, that precision military destruction of the threat of Iran having nuclear weapons, which has not changed. Nuclear weapons that the regime surely would have pointed at us. For the United States, it's still a decisive victory on the battlefield, but more importantly, on the global stage. President Trump demonstrated that he means what he says, and if you ignore his warnings, you do so at your own peril or the peril of your country. The American victory over Iran stands. And over its radical Islamic regime, it comes after 46 years of instability and unrest, undermines all the terrorist organizations. Iran might be in its death throes today. That could be what we're witnessing. But here's another takeaway. For 46 years, the money from Tehran funded Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, terror attacks inside the United States, and plots to kill Americans here in the homeland too. It is hard to overstate how important the attack was on Saturday. The political ramifications are many. I mean, honestly, what do the Democrats have left? Are they going to complain that President Trump wasted too much money disarming Iran, something that every president since Jimmy Carter failed to do? Most notably, Barack Obama, who gave $1.7 billion in cash, and Joe Biden, whose left-wing ideology had them placating the regime and pumping in lots of money as well. None of this is an insignificant development. War, no war, war again. But the United States dropping the midnight hammer was clear. We'll do it again. President Trump has always preached peace through strength. He just showed the world how he intends to get there. Are we there quite yet? Apparently not. On Monday, Iran reacted to getting its nuclear program obliterated by the United States Air Force by launching a pathetic response against a U.S. airbase in Qatar. 10 missiles launched, 9 were taken out, 1 hit an empty field. So, 0 damage, 0 casualties. That was the takeaway. Oh, and the Iranians told us in advance the missiles were coming. They didn't intend to hit anything, it seems. So with the 12-day war maybe close to over, President Trump thought it was over. We're not sure now. Israel is responding viciously to the breaking of the truce. All right, let's take we've got a live feed. Donald Trump is headed to NATO today. We can take that live feed of Donald Trump preparing to leave for the NATO summit with this as the backdrop. There's Air Force One, ready to go overseas to the NATO summit. We'll see what the president is able to put together on that flight. Can he stop the war yet? Maybe. As he flies off to see our NATO allies, where he will demand that 5% of their GDP is spent on defense to protect against Russia and China and apparently still Iran. We'll be right back. All right, so the 12-day war up in the air right now. The ceasefire that was there is short-lived, to say the least. It was announced last night, 8:30 last night, roughly. So here we are. And there's still time to reflect on the leadership that President Trump displayed. The sophisticated precision attack that for the first time in nearly 50 years, it may take a moment here, but it could deliver some stable peace to the Middle East over time. Let's be clear. The U.S. really is the only nation on earth capable of delivering such a surgically precise and devastating blow to our enemies anywhere on the planet. The strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities were a stunning display of military precision, power, and technological dominance, penetrating advanced air defenses without detection or retaliation, using air, cyber, and space assets to jam radar and strike buried targets with zero civilian casualties. It showcased unmatched capability and President Trump's unwavering faith in the men and women of the U.S. military to pull it off clean, and they did. Operation Midnight Hammer wasn't just a mission, it was a global message. With stealth bombers and bunker busters, America reminded adversaries like Iran, Russia, and China that we lead where others cannot follow. The Iranian representative first claimed that the U.S. had violated international law. Seriously? You're going to stand up there and claim that while you behead dissidents, throw people you disagree with off rooftops, and fund terrorism around the globe at the expense of your own people, you're going to stand up there and say that? What's worse is that Democrats have been echoing the same talking points. They've lost their minds. It's a tale as old as time at this point. The familiar calls for impeachment, of course. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, an embarrassment unto herself, called for Donald Trump's impeachment. And Bernie Sanders whipped up a crowd in Oklahoma with this. Listen.
Not only is this news that I've just heard this second alarming, that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right.
Talking about both sides of your mouth, of your wacko, socialist, communist mouth. They were screaming about reckless warmongering and abuse of power, while conveniently forgetting their own track record. Going to guess they will be silent for a while now. I mean, how many times can you be so wrong and still remain loud and arrogant? These are the same folks, by the way, who had no problem and no complaint at all when Barack Obama killed 4 American citizens with drone attacks abroad without congressional approval. They were silent when Obama dropped, what was it? Was it 22,000 bombs on 7 countries in the final months of his presidency? Something like that. Might have been more than that, actually. But 7 countries, 25,000 bombs, who can count? Not a peep from Bernie Sanders or the morons in the crowd. The same folks who funneled billions in cash to Iran under disastrous nuclear deals that led to this moment in time. But who's trying to deliver peace and peace of mind? President Trump, of course, and again. Since the Midnight Hammer mission, they've been screaming, impeach Trump for actually protecting American interests, for stopping a rogue regime dead in its tracks that wanted to kill you and me. Spare me. They're not mad about the strikes. They're mad because Trump did what they never had the guts or the balls to do. And now the war will come to an end. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. But it will end. And Donald Trump will come out on top. So expect to hear nothing at all from the Democrats. They need something new. You see, the economy's doing great. Trillions of dollars of investment pouring in. The border is sealed like a duck's ass. And a war that was stopped in its tracks will also be top of the page. But on the left, they don't care. They would attack the man even if he turned water into wine. They're mad because he's winning. And their globalist, appeasement-loving worldview is crumbling before their eyes. And the war machine has slowed down, if only for a moment. It's slowed down. There are a couple of Democrats, though, that can see through the fog of war and political war. A couple. One of those Democrats, Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, has retained some of his sanity. The guy who has suffered a massive stroke is more together than all the rest, calling the airstrike in Iran for what it actually was. Listen to this.
There's going to be a lot of people in my party that are going to disagree with the strike in Iran, and then I actually support calling for that thing. I think it was entirely appropriate. And again, there might be votes on that. So for me, that's not a war. That was a very limited military exercise, and it struck that, and then that's where we're at. So really, it really wasn't about unconstitutional or it's anything like that. It was like a very, very limited military engagement, and then it took them out, damaged them severely.
All right. Took them out, damaged them severely. We don't know the state of the war today. There was a war, then a ceasefire declared by the President of the United States, then some attacks by Iran on Israel, and Israel now planning a full-scale retaliation in the heart of Tehran. Meanwhile, we can still watch Air Force One preparing to leave for NATO. It'll be wheels up here shortly as Donald Trump is heading over to NATO for the summit of the NATO countries, where he will demand that 5% of GDP be spent on defense. No question. It's going to be an interesting couple of days. We'll keep an eye on all of it for you right here from the chair. I'll take a break and be back. Remember to follow me on X today. If you're not a follower, you need to be on X, where we're live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Real America's Voice Television, of course. We're live globally. Thank you for being here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, well, we're watching the live pictures of Air Force One. We're keeping up on everything going on here and trying to keep things flowing. We'll keep you up to speed on everything as it happens. We'll have you an update on the Israeli attacks that are coming on the nation of Iran here shortly. That's after Iran violated the ceasefire. After a short few hours, the ceasefire was broken, and here we are. It's not unpredictable. You do have to stay here, and we'll get this all covered for you. All right, Kroger closing at least 60 stores. 6 stores getting closed. The Cincinnati-based grocery chain made the announcement Friday. Thousands of supermarkets and pharmacies across the nation. 60 stores in 18 months. A first quarter 2025 earnings report said. The report said the company's profits exceeded our expectations. Unfortunately, today, not all of our stores are delivering the sustainable results we need to position our company for future success. This morning, we announced plans to close approximately 60 stores over 18 months. They're making tons of money. Kroger is closing stores. I can't tell you which ones yet, but I'll stay on top of it so you will know. You got to protect yourself. You got to protect yourself. Did you know 60 million Americans have parasites today? That's scary. They invade your body, wreaking havoc on your gut, energy levels, even your brain. And the mainstream medical system, well, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want you to do this one great cleanse that can change your life. The wellness company has a solution. Ivermectin and mebendazole. FDA-approved parasite solutions now combined in one cleanse combo. Fill out a brief medical intake form. Get your 3-month supply. Lots of parasite cleanses are all over social media, but not the gold standard. Maha's officially here, and the wellness company is making hard-to-get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. What do you need to do? Go to twc.health/Gruber. twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save $60. Plus, you get free shipping. Don't wait. Cleanse your body today. I did it. Feel great. Except for the little sickness I've had. But these things are not related. Yeah, under the weather since Thursday, but I'm fighting back. We're getting there, folks. All right, when we come back, Major General Bob Dees will be here. 31 years, U.S. Army. After the break here on the Steve Gruber Show. right, back to it as we continue watching the Air Force One sitting on the tarmac at Andrews, ready to go wheels up to NATO. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also, Iran didn't take long to violate the ceasefire announced last night by President Trump on Truth Social. Many people weighed in and commented on that, but it didn't take them long. Now Israel is preparing a vicious counterattack. Joining me now is Major General Bob Dees. He served 31 years in the U.S. Army before retiring. He was in a wide variety of command and staff positions, including commander of the U.S.-Israeli Combined Task Force for Missile Defense. He now runs, by the way, the National Center for Healthy Veterans in rural Virginia. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, thank you for being here, General.
Good to be with you, Steve.
Really appreciate it. All right, so Iran's respect for the ceasefire lasted about 5 minutes. They attacked Israel with some drones, apparently some missiles. Israel preparing a full-throated response, as they do. But I think that this is the last throes of this regime. I don't see that there's much left. Their capabilities have been diminished to a point that we don't believe they have any command and control of their missiles at all. They can't send missiles long range because they have no way to control them. That's one problem. So where are we today? We thought we had a ceasefire. That was the talk last night. Now we don't. What do you think is going to happen the next 24, 48 hours? Any way to predict?
Yeah, well, I think they're still standing up on the inside, Steve. And I was surprised when they agreed to a ceasefire because I think the Iranians are going to break instead of bend. And so they're going to have to enjoy another dose of medicine from the Israelis, perhaps even from the U.S. But I agree with you; they're on their last legs, and this is we're in the final, denouement of this before we see them fail. And then also, I'm interested in seeing what the people in Iran do, the regime change, if you will, as some people refer to it.
Yeah, that's the way I refer to it. 46 years we've stood here, General, 46 years since 1979, and those, images that I will never forget. 52 Americans taken hostage for 444 days. Released the day that Ronald Reagan was sworn in as president. You know those days as well as I do. We've watched this country devolve into a place where the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah go to get their money so they can attack Americans and others all over the world. And there were plots inside this country as well to kill Americans here and target Donald Trump for assassination. This regime, I do think it's on its last legs this morning. I think that it's going to collapse. That's my guess. It's my gut feeling. I've got nothing to say that for sure, but I really feel that it's on its way out. Anything we can do to help them?
Yeah, well, I think we just continue to encourage the people, everything from Voice of America and other elements, to communicate directly with the people. That's one. Two, there's still a significant domestic threat. I think Israel is handling the region. They've eliminated a lot of the surrogates. But now in America, since over the last 10, 20 years, the number of Iranians that have entered our country and the number of sleeper cells that currently exist is alarming. And that's why domestically we still need to be on our front foot because we've got significant threat, not only to assassination, but also to just public disorder and violence.
Yeah, no question. You look at every day the numbers have gotten worse as to how many Iranian nationals came into this country. 7,000 miles from Tehran to El Paso, but somehow they're crossing into this country illegally. There are also 30,000 Chinese nationals. They often work together. They coordinate together. China, setting somebody up and make them be the patsy to take the fall, but make the attack first. I think there are a lot of problems facing us because of the open border policies of Joe Biden and the Democrats for 4 years. 20 million people came in. 2 million gotaways, according to Tom Homan. I mean, that's a devastating figure, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it certainly is. To move back a few years, after 9/11, I came back and I quickly saw in our intelligence, I was in Europe at the time, saw in our intelligence that we had many sleeper cells in Lackawanna, New York, Nashville, Tennessee, Dearborn, Michigan. And those sleeper cells, were there in 2001. Now let's fast forward, see what we've allowed to cross our border. And we are not in good shape. And so the Department of Homeland Security and others, the FBI, they've got their work cut out for them, not just for the next few days or weeks, but for the next few years.
Sleeper cells, 2001, a quarter of a century ago is what you're saying. We had those problems a quarter of a century ago, General.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I can only imagine what it's like now. Yeah. And then you see the disarray on college campuses and some of the anti-Israel protests that are occurring now. It's we've got.
I'm watching New York City. It looks like Zohran Mamdani could be the winner of the Democratic primary to be mayor of New York City. A communist Muslim mayor from Africa, apparently, who is sympathetic to Iran and all of these organizations. I mean, what a fright. Could you imagine on 9/11 or 9/12 saying, oh, in 20 or 25 years, you'll have a Muslim communist mayor from Africa? Really? Who would have believed that?
Right. Yeah, at Twin Towers. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, who would have believed that?
Yeah.
It's a frightening place we stand. All right, so tell me about this new operation, because we don't really know what's going to happen next. We'll keep an eye on it. But tell me about the National Center for Healthy Veterans that you run there in Virginia.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I heard on one of your earlier pieces about MAHA. We're really drafting behind MAHA. We have a movement to make America's veterans healthy again. And that's we subscribe to physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, relational wellness. Our bumper sticker is returning healthy veterans to America. As you know, many of our veterans are at risk. Many of our veterans need support in various ways. And so we're working that. Your listeners, Steve, can go to healthyveterans.org for a couple purposes. One, they can always contribute, but also these veterans that need help, these at-risk veterans with PTSD, TBI, traumatic brain injury, moral injury, they are in the woodwork of America. And so the people of Michigan, we've got people from 12 different states right now. The people in Michigan and other places can really help us by identifying these at-risk veterans, going to our website, pressing the button about how to refer a veteran, and that'll help us help others. We need to take care of these veterans more than ever before.
I greatly appreciate the work you're doing. Major General Bob Dees, 31 years, retired from the United States Army. Sir, thank you for being here. We'll keep you on speed dial as these things continue to change, sir. Thank you very much.
Good to be with you, Steve. Take care.
Really appreciate it. All right, so a lot of uncertainty today. There was a ceasefire, and then there wasn't. That's where we are. Hillsdale College, by the way, has some great new programs. You don't want to miss these. Look, these are so well done. They talk about the story of America. That's the new deal being put out by Hillsdale College, the story of America. A remarkable series. And there are all these series about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, where the Founding Fathers came from. All sorts of education for you for free. Free. Very well done. And multi-series, multi-episode series. You can binge watch Hillsdale College. Free online courses, Congress, how it worked, why it doesn't. That's another one that just pops into my mind. They're all taught by Hillsdale faculty. They're great. Gruber for Hillsdale.com. Check this out. You're going to like it better than Netflix. Gruber for Hillsdale.com. I'll take a break and be right back. right, the ceasefire has collapsed after just a short period of time. But as I discussed with the last guest, with the general there, it feels to me like we're in the last throes of this regime in Tehran, chucking out some missiles, some drones, only to get pounded into submission by the Israelis, which will happen any second now. Ryan McDermott is a U.S. Army veteran, author of Downriver, a memoir of a warrior poet. He is an executive in the aerospace and defense industry and a former senior Pentagon official specializing in national security policy, finance, and government relations. He joins me now. Ryan, thank you for being here.
Steve, thanks for having me on to this morning.
You know, I'm a bit surprised, but not really. Iran did not observe the ceasefire, but then again, we don't know who's running Iran at the moment. We don't know who could have launched these missiles. Their command and control are pretty well wiped out. And what I mean by that is they can't send missiles any farther than Qatar because I don't think they have the ability to steer them. I think they've lost that ability. They have no air force. Israel dominates the skies. America came in and pounded them like I've never seen. They've got real problems. Is this the last throes of this?
I don't have the intelligence assessment. I couldn't say. One thing that we can observe, what we know publicly is that a lot of the military leadership was wiped out in the first sort of wave. And, in terms of the chain of command, that begins to sort of erode, the ability to sort of say, hey, here's the rules of engagement. And so, just speculating, there may be some independent actors in Iran that are acting. So I don't know. I don't have the assessment of where the strength of the regime. I'm sure our intelligence community has a good assessment of that. But I think right now it's probably a little bit of a wait and see if this ceasefire can kind of be brought back together.
Yeah, it's got to be a disappointment. Donald Trump about to get on Air Force One and head for the NATO summit in the Netherlands. He'll be touching down there shortly. We've been watching the live feed of Air Force One sitting there at Andrews. I don't know that it's left yet. I didn't see it take off. But the Iranians were pounded into submission here. I don't think they can last. Maybe they violate the ceasefire today or maybe tomorrow, but how much could they possibly have left, Ryan?
I don't have the intelligence assessment to know. The question is really the political will of the Ayatollah. And so, the question is every conflict eventually has a diplomatic sort of resolution. That's where the end game is you try to get to. If you don't have a leader to negotiate with, that's where the process, you can talk about some of the regime change that's been discussed, possibility of regime change. I think the president has made clear that is not the desired goal, and which I think is a pragmatic, smart objective to try to negotiate with the Iranian leadership to get to a ceasefire and get to a new status quo.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that because we don't know. We have not seen the retaliatory strikes from Israel quite yet, but I know they're coming. I want to ask you about a couple of other things. First of all, how about this Zohran Mamdani, socialist or communist, a Democrat from Africa, who could be the next mayor of the city of New York? You go from bad to worse. Chicago. I thought Lori Lightweight was bad. Then they brought in this guy, Brandon Johnson. Boy, what a disaster he is. And what about the next? This guy is poised to win the Democrat primary today to be the mayor of New York City. Pretty striking.
Yeah, I apologize, Steve. I have not followed the New York City politics. Definitely, the Iranian situation has definitely gotten a lot of my attention. I apologize for.
Oh, that's all right. I just see all these red flags as I look around, and then I see the big beautiful bill. I see that the parliamentarian is saying, "Oh, you can't do this or this or this or this," and basically gutting the Trump agenda by a Democrat-appointed judge. What do you make of that?
We'll see. I think we see what happens. Let's wait a beat and see how this plays out. I did not see that news. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I just see all these different red flags and concerns that I have. The biggest, of course, is war. what would you say to the people that keep screaming we're on the edge of World War III? I don't think that we're on the edge of World War III here. We've got problems, yes, but I feel like Donald Trump made a pretty.
I think that's. I think there's certainly concern about the way of the world, but I don't think. I think it's sort of you start waving that out there, but it starts to sort of raise tensions even more. I've got a kid. My son is in the military, and so he just graduated. And this kind of gets to I wrote a book about sort of my journey over the past 20 years during the global war on terrorism and some of the aftermath of my service. I think that there's definitely a lot of anxiety that Americans have. We went through 20 years of war and continue in sort of ending those. And now we have these major sort of conflict areas. We have Ukraine, Russia. We have obviously the crisis in the Middle East. And there's what we can't forget is we've got the tensions in China, the East Asia with the China-Taiwan tensions. So I think what our position in the world is to try to manage these and to maintain the balance of power.
Yeah, there's no. And China, if they get their oil squeezed because Iran is unstable, that hurts. 90% of the oil that's sold out the back door of Iran goes to China. It accounts for about 25% of Chinese oil. If they have an energy problem in China, that creates more instability and more problems with be it Taiwan or anywhere else. Go ahead.
These are definitely connected. There's definitely interconnections with Iran, Russia, China, and the geopolitics that all play. And I think that's all part of whatever negotiated sort of solution there is for the Middle East between Iran and Israel.
No question. Ryan McDermott, U.S. Army veteran, author of Downriver, memoir of a warrior poet. Ryan, always good to see you here. I appreciate your time, as always.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate being on.
Thank you. We'll take a break and be right back. right, Donald Trump will be on his way to the Netherlands for the NATO summit. It's happening here this week, of course. The NATO summit is happening this week, and he's about to arrive. Joint Base Andrews in Marine One. Coming in is the president. He'll then get on Air Force One for the ride over the pond for those NATO meetings. And again, his demand is going to be, for the NATO folks, his demand is going to be, you need to increase your spending 5% of GDP. 5% of GDP needs to be spent on defense, which means America's not footing the bill forever. Right? That's going to be the message. Not going to be footing the bill forever. Of course, conversations at NATO will also focus on what's happening in Ukraine. I'm sure there'll be conversations about the short-lived ceasefire that Iran violated and Israel is forcefully going to respond to. Those are the headlines as Donald Trump arrives at Joint Base Andrews aboard Marine One, preparing to leave on Air Force One for those negotiations. Iran, to me, looks like it's a regime in the last throes, in the throes of death. I may be proven wrong here, but that is my gut feeling. I'm going to go where my gut takes me, and that is in Tehran, there's real trouble. Israel says it's going to target points inside Tehran today in response to what has happened. Tehran is going to choose targets right in the city of Tehran and take them out. When we come back in the next hour, of course, Donald Trump will be on his way to the Netherlands. He'll be on his way to those NATO summit meetings. Bill Walton will be here. We'll talk about the agenda of the big, beautiful bill. We'll talk about Iran violating the ceasefire. We'll talk about the border. We'll talk about Zohran Mamdani, a communist, an outspoken communist who wants to